I mentioned in the previous video that GitHub has best practices for open source projects. Usually those best practices comes in the form of files that you need to add to your project. To see the list of files that you need to add to your project, you can go to Insights and Community. Here you can see the list of items to go through. First, you have the description. It is quite self-explanatory and can be the same as the description that you will add to your package.json. You should add the description to the home page of your repository. Then we have the README. The README is a file that will contain information about getting started with your project, installation, links to the contributing guide, and other resources related to the project. I personally use the same templates to write the README. The first section is a description of the project, often 1 or 2 paragraphs explaining what issue it solves, what it is for, who is it for. Then the installation guide. It can be one command specifying NPM I or yarn add and the name of the package. After that, a guide on how to use it, basically the API of the package, and a link to the contributing guide, a word about versioning, if you want to use semantic versioning, called also Semver, or something else, to just let other developers know what they should expect when it comes to updating in the future your package. And finally, the license. Another file to add is the code of conduct. GitHub describes the code of conduct as follows. A code of conduct is a document that establishes expectation for behavior for your project's participants. Adopting and enforcing a code of conduct can help create a positive social atmosphere for your community. There are 2 code of conducts proposed by GitHub when you add the file on the website. The Contributor Covenant Code of Conduct is a good and simple one that I would recommend. It basically establishes the expectation of people acting like decent human beings. If you wish to have something more custom, you can start with the Citizen Code of Conduct as a base. It is way more detailed and will give you some ideas on what sections to add to your own. Next, the Contributing Guide. The Contributing Guide contains information for your contributors about what you should expect from them, how to set up the project to be able to do a pull request. It will be really helpful if someone wants to fix a bug or develop one of the feature requests in the issues. The template that I'm using contains information about the code of conduct, information about the versioning, information about the development workflow, a list of commands to get started, run the test, build the library, do the linting and formatting of the code, and a checklist about tasks expected to have been done before creating the pull request. Another file needed is the license. We talked about the license in the previous video, but to summarize quickly, the reason why a license is important for any project is because it acts as a legal document that indicates the permission that you give to other developers and companies on your project. Then issue templates and issue forms. Templates are quite important if you want to make your project public. One of the most challenging part of a project is not really the code itself, but more handling the feedback, issues, and pull requests that will come your way. When there is an issue with your project, the main difficulty is to get the correct information from the requester so that you can reproduce the issue and debug it more easily. With a template, you can basically force in some way the issuer to provide this information. You can create multiple issues templates. For different type of issues, I usually have 2 types of template that follows the same format. First, for bug reports, describe the bugs, steps to reproduce the behavior, environments, or really any information that will help me debug the issue more easily. So it can be version of the library or the operating system or anything else. The second type is for feature request. A clear and concise description of what the problem is, a clear and concise description of what you want to happen, a clear and concise description of any alternative solution or features you have considered. And with those two templates created, when someone wants to file an issue, it will be presented to those templates. One of the problems with the templates is that users can easily erase the templates and choose not to follow it. It is a big problem for maintainers because reproducing the issues takes often more time than debugging it and fixing it. So GitHub listened to maintainers and came up with a solution to avoid people erasing the template and doing whatever they want. And that solution is called issues forms. And an issue form is written in YAML. You can create fields that can be required, forcing the person writing the issue to complete the information. Fields will have a type, text area, checkboxes, a description, a label, verification if it's required or not, options for checkboxes, and yeah, the form itself is quite flexible. Now for the pull request template, we can have a section to describe the big pictures of the changes here to communicate to the maintainer what basically this pull request should be accepted. If it fixes a bug or it resolves a feature request, I have basically a link to that issue. It will be important to see what type of changes it introduced, if it's a bug, if it's a new feature, or if it's a breaking change, and a checklist of the steps that needs to be done. Things like linting, formatting, adding tests. This is basically to ensure that the requester has done the work, so you're not going to have to do it yourself. And that completes the list that GitHub is recommending. Next, let's clone the repo and set up our project.